Welcome back to Living Without an Expiration Date. Let me start today with a moment that many professionals have experienced, but very few talk about openly. A few weeks ago, someone reached out to me after listening to this podcast. He told me his organization had just announced a restructuring, nothing dramatic. They're making some layoffs, but no crisis, just a reorg. On paper, his job was still there. But when the new org chart came out, something felt different. The role he once held near the center of the decision making had quietly moved down a layer or two. The responsibilities were still there. The title was still there, but the influence was different. The message he sent me contained a sentence that really stayed with me. He wrote, "I think the organization just moved forward without me." Now, that's a hard realization because it doesn't come with a dramatic moment. No one sits you down and says, "You're no longer part of the future." Instead, it arrives quietly. You notice you're no longer in certain meetings, maybe. Decisions happen above you instead of around you, maybe. The promotion you thought might be coming goes somewhere else. And one day you look at the org chart and realize something has shifted. You still have a job, but you're not sure you have the same path. And that's when the real questions begin. Do I stay where I am and write it out? Do I put myself back on the market and pursue something new? Or do I take a moment to rethink what I actually want the next chapter of my career to look like? Those are not easy questions. And they're questions thousands of experienced professionals quietly wrestle with every year. So today, I want to talk about what happens when the organization moves without you. And more importantly, how to think through the three crossroads that often follow: stay for security, leave for opportunity, or pivot for lifestyle. Because none of these paths are wrong, but each one requires clarity. Sometimes the organization moves forward and you realize you're no longer moving with it. The promotion doesn't come, the roles shift, the org chart changes. And suddenly you're asking yourself the question that can feel deeply personal. Is it time for me to leave, to stay, leave, or pivot? Today I want to talk through those three crossroads because many mid-career professionals are quietly facing this exact dilemma. Organizational change is constant. New leadership arrives, strategies shift, departments reorganize, and sometimes those changes elevate you, but sometimes they don't. And when they don't, it creates a very emotional space, a strange emotional space. You still have a job, you still contribute, but something feels different. You notice things like your influence shrinking, decisions happening above you, your role becoming more operational and less strategic, or maybe the promotion you had hoped for quietly goes to someone else. No announcement explains it, but the signals become clear. The organization is moving, but not necessarily with you. Let's start with the first option, staying. And I want to be very clear about something. Staying is not failure. Sometimes staying is the most rational decision you can make. especially when there are factors like financial stability, benefits, retirement structures, pensions, family responsibilities. People in their 40s and 50s reach a point where the job isn't just a job, it's part of their financial foundation. So, staying can be a strategic decision. But there are two very different reasons people stay. Sometimes because they still see opportunity. Others stay because they're afraid to leave. Those are very different mindsets. One question I often ask people is this: are you staying for opportunity, or are you staying for insurance? Insurance can be wise, but you need to be honest about it, about which one it is. Because if you're staying purely for security, then your strategy changes. You stop expecting validation. You stop waiting for recognition. You simply make a conscious decision. I'm here to finish strong and protect what I've built. That clarity can actually bring peace. But if you're staying while secretly hoping something changes, that's when frustration grows. The second option is leaving. And for many people in mid career, leaving feels risky, especially around age 50. You might hear thoughts like, do I really want to start over? Will someone value my experience? Am I too established to pivot? But here's the truth: you're not starting over, you're starting from experience. The leadership skills you've built over decades do not disappear just because you change organizations. Strategic thinking travels, judgment travels, emotional intelligence travels, relationships travel, but leaving requires honest reflection. You have to ask yourself, am I leaving because I'm running away from frustration? Or am I leaving because I see a better opportunity ahead? Those motivations matter. If you leave purely out of frustration, you may recreate the same situation somewhere else. But if you leave with clarity about what you want, the next chapter can be incredibly energizing. The third option is the one people talk about the least: pivoting. Not necessarily climbing higher, not necessarily chasing titles, but redefining what success looks like. Sometimes that means a smaller organization, a different role, advisory work, consulting, teaching, board service, or simply a position with lower stress and more life balance. And this option often raises an uncomfortable question. What if success in the next chapter looks different from the success in the last one? For some people, pivoting feels like stepping backward, but in reality, it can be stepping towards something healthier: more time, more freedom, more alignment with family and personal priorities. At mid career, the question often shifts from how high can I climb to how do I want to live? And that's a powerful shift. When someone's standing at this crossroads, when someone is standing at this crossroads, I often suggest a simple framework. I call it the 3R career test. The 3Rs are risk, reward, regret. Start with risk. What are the real risks of staying? What are the real risks of leaving? And what are the real risks of pivoting? Sometimes we overestimate risks simply because the path is unfamiliar. And don't just answer these questions in your head, and write out your answers because that gives them a real foundation for believability. Our number two is reward. What would each path give you? Staying might give you stability. Leaving might give you growth. Pivoting might give you peace. Each path has a different reward structure. And finally, the most powerful are regret. 5 years from now, which decision might you regret not exploring? Would you regret staying too long? Would you regret leaving financial security? Would you regret not giving yourself permission to design a different kind of life? Regret is often the clearest lens we have because it forces us to look beyond today's fears. Before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with 3 questions to sit with this week. Not questions you have to answer immediately, just questions worth reflecting on if you find yourself standing at a career crossroads. Question number 1. If nothing about your current role changed over the next 18 months, would staying feel like patience or resignation? That distinction matters. Sometimes we stay because we're building towards something. Other times we stay because we haven't yet given ourselves permission to consider something different. Question number 2. Are you worried about starting over, or are you actually starting from experience? At mid-career, you are not beginning again. You are bringing decades of judgment, perspective, and wisdom into whatever comes next. The question is whether you're allowing yourself to see that as an asset. And question number 3. 5 years from now, when you look back at this moment, what decision would make you proud of how you handled it? Not the safest decision, not the easiest decision, but the one that aligns most closely with who you want to be in the next chapter of your life. And if one of those questions resonates with you, write it down somewhere this week. Sit with it. Talk about it with someone you trust, because sometimes the most important career decisions we have are the ones we take the time to think through carefully. Thank you for listening to Living Without an Expiration Date. If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with somebody who may be quietly navigating their own career crossroads. And remember this: your value doesn't come with an expiration date. Until next time, keep moving forward. Thank you.